Greetings and welcome. I'm Psychic Medium Roberto, and I truly hope you're well. I'm forever guided by Spirit, and please hit that notification icon for new episodes. Trigger warning: the subject matter is of a mature nature and deals with true crime events. All cases are treated as alleged until proven in a court of law. Although we take in an entertainment slant, and this will be number 3 in the series. Effectively, these are the channels where I would go to if I need any kind of resource in terms of facts, dates, documents. And Melanie Little has her channel, which is Attorney Melanie Little. She is an ex-attorney and litigator coming out of New York. And she has her YouTube channel. And the way I found her, normal research. And then one day I watched one of her shows about, you recall this case here, Veronica Butler and Gillian Kelly. And what was interesting is Melanie literally had official documents within, I believe, 48 hours. Don't quote me on the 48 hours, but she was one of the first to come out with official documentation. The case had just broken. And I was watching her channel for the information. And then I subsequently did that episode. But very well presented. Semi-formal, casual, but obviously a lot of law, can be serious, but I find the information and the facts and figures obviously very good coming out of the channel, and it is definitely one of my recommendations if you want an attorney perspective on crimes. And of course she does a lot of court cases and a lot of live shows. And I found her to be reliable. So let's see what the date of her birth of her channel says. Born July the 31st, 2014. Now immediately we see 777s. And of course, 7s speak about justice. So we'll keep it at, so let me just say, we'll keep it at an attorney level, okay? Because what I was going to say is the 7 can be police, of course. But let's just keep it as an attorney perspective. Which would also obviously include disclosure, courtroom activity, preparing the documents for the courts, going through evidence, etc. So we'll keep it at her level. So interestingly, the day that the channel is born in, 31/4. Now, this is the reason why I'm doing these shows, so I can show you numbers in a different aspect, right? So you'll recall from the crime shows, 31/4 speaks about, at a crime scene level, a corpse, right? But in Melanie's case, when you're dealing with facts, legal documentation, and 4 also speaks about evidence, okay? So when you have the 31/4, it is, and incidentally, I had this in a private reading this morning actually, 31/4 is getting information from the community that is involved in the situation, whatever level, next door neighbor, eyewitnesses, whatever information and knowledge gathering would occur, because it's holistic, it gets, we'll see a reduction. So it goes from a 3 to a 1. Now you take in, let's say, mass knowledge. You go through it, you reduce it to a 1 if you take it on the literal. and that becomes your evidence. Okay. Now, with the 31, 4, and the 7, we have the outcome 38, 11, 2. So immediately we can identify 11, 2 is the law, is about the law. If you want to talk litigation, it can also include contracts, agreements, high-level stuff. So the reason why I say high-level stuff is because we see a 3, 8. Now, this is not, for example, a private eye staking out a location and gathering information. This is a group effort, group 3, communication about the law. Okay. Now, with the 38, 11, 2 and the 7, so I will just say something about these 7s before we go here. Now, the channel is born in a 7 year, and I keep saying this about 7s, don't fuck with 7s. July has a 7. Now, when you have 3 7s, it also speaks about a measure of control. So in this case, it's talking about controlling the information, the evidence, and the law to fulfill a function. Okay? We can all agree that when we see attorneys in courtrooms, they're quite intense, right? And this is what this speaks to. So what do we have? We have the evidence 4. Now 5 is an interesting number when it comes to the courtroom. So this is a good opportunity to speak about the 5s here, because this is a positive aspect. And I know 5s get quite a bit of flack, but with all numbers there's a positive and a negative. Now, let me explain something about a 5. If a crime is committed with a 5 outcome, so in this position, if there was a 5 here, for example, or if it in a 5 year, I would put my bottom dollar on and say 99.9% of the time, if there's a 5 year in a crime, and if there's a 5 year, it will come to court at some point or the other through this number. 4, evidence. 5, disclosure. So let me just put here. It's very interesting that crimes that are committed with a 5 year, in particularly a 5 year and a 5 outcome, 99.9999% it will come to court, whether immediately, in other words, the crime is the perpetrator is caught within, let's say, 12 hours, and there's a court case happening in a month or 2, for example. Or if we have like this, I want to call him a name there, the Idaho 4 case, where they are dragging that case to shit. Okay? I saw now there's a post, the judge is now off the case. And I said in one of my earlier readings, they're going to drag it out to shit. So here we go. 5, disclosure. It will not only someone speaks out about it, in other words, an eyewitness comes forward. No, that's part of it's part of that process. But to court, it will always come to court. And in her case, and I would imagine in many instances, the issue of murder, right? Many crimes, unfortunately, do end in murder, but murder, and we can also take on a general level crime. Okay, here's murder here. All right, so the channel has a life path 9. And I mentioned this, I believe it was with Grizzly Crime. People, or let's say in the case of a channel 9, speaks about higher purpose. Higher purpose. So it's almost like, if I had to use a really dumb colloquial example, she'll be half asleep, had only half a cup of coffee, but she's prepared to do the live show to speak about a particular case. That's the level. It's a really dumb example, but it gives it a sense of purpose before self, right? So let's go into the 369 and let's have a look and see what we find. So, of course, in the +3, we now see more of a collection of the 7s. And I would probably agree in the sense saying, let's use a very recent example of the Rust court case, right? Actually, that's a very good example. So on one level, let's say if we, as an example, when I mentioned there's the 7s and there's control of the case into the courtroom, that is perception. So, for example, was it the prosecutor in the first trial with the armorer? Hey, she looked like she was on top of it, right? Now, when we go into the nitty-gritty and we start digging deeper, we see in the case of Melanie, there's actually more control in place now. There's an extra 7, if you will, on the literal. So when it's getting closer to court, and here's your court numbers, 12-3, 4-8, 12-3, 12-3, 3 is court. So let me write here for you. 3 equals court. So what I'm getting to, in the case of Rust, they start like this, but they don't end like this. Because in the second case with Baldwin, Alec Baldwin, it went to shit. That is because the front says, yes, I'm all about the law, but when you start digging in, is it about the law, and how much of the law do you really care about? So here's an answer. Now, instead of 3 7s, we have 4 7s. So the ante, we're stepping up the ante here. I would want my lawyer to be like maniacal, and I'm not saying she is, but I'm just saying the level of control, right? Let me just check something here quickly. Yeah, so here's another example, 41.5. So when we speak about disclosure, right? How are we going to present the case? Okay. Are we, for example, sorry for keep zooming in, maybe I'll just leave it like this. Are we, for example, just going to take the whole pack of notes, raw notes, video files in a box and take it to the judge and say, yeah, we've gathered all the evidence. So here's the chair. In fact, it's before the 4. Here's all the evidence, have a look. Or, in her case, we've got the evidence. That's one thing. But now how are we going to approach the case in the courtroom? Okay? So she's not going in there like a hot dog, cowboy, cowgirl, whatever, hot ego. There's purpose and a plan before those courtroom doors open and the first gavel goes down to start proceedings. There's a plan of action. How are we going to present the evidence and disclose it in a way that, of course, here's it here, we can 48, 12, 3 to the jury. How are we going to communicate? So communicate 8, the evidence to the court. Okay. Now, initially when I saw this 3710-1, it took me back to the Karen Reed case that I did. When the stalemate came out, remember we had the 8 plus the 8, 8v8. I mentioned there was a hidden 3710-1. Okay. Now in this case, one could argue, if we look at it from a conspiracy or even from a murder perspective, 3710-1 is those higher ups in play, right? Now in this case, it talks about the judicial system. So 7 and the 3 brings around the court and justice, judicial. 10-1, the system, the organ, the group, the law group. So in her case, judicial system. Um, 44-8, of course, I'm sure it might have pinged on you. It also was alarming when I first saw it. We're doing too many murder shows. Of course, we can argue on one point based on this number, 41.5, that there is a design and a plan, right? So it's in the positive. Is it a good plan or is it a bad plan? However, I want to point out that it also speaks about the evidence. This is when you see, this is a good thing, is when we see 4s, particularly look how strong this is here. Remember, this is one of our old foes, 40 with an outcome 4, very negative in a crime scene. But in this case, it's the mass evidence. So we can imagine, depending on the scale of the crime, how much information comes in, even at the call center level. But it gets reduced to something more manageable. Okay? So all this evidence gets communicated. And it's communicated with the 8 and the justice 7. So very strong numbers here for the purpose of what this channel is. So we see the familiar 41.5. Here's this thing about, I would say, so this is the human aspect side of it, right? But I would also just say she would enjoy the process because there is a 41.5 there. She wouldn't be doing it if she didn't, right? But it says the process of getting that disclosure evidence. 24.6 now deals with family issues. So I would say there would be a lot of family cases around her, I would imagine. And cases obviously affecting families, because that's a family number, right? And the 15.6 is the arseholes committing the crime. Okay. So now when we go into the higher self, 44, mass documentation, boxes and boxes and boxes get reduced to something manageable. 47 is about the law, the facts about the law, 11.2. So if you were ever looking for a channel that was legit and speaks to the essence of who she is and what the channel's purpose is, this is it. Okay. So here we got 5, disclosure of evidence. Predominantly and quite high on the list, unfortunately, murder, crime. But the outcome must be justice. Purpose is justice. So really awesome, very strong numbers here, I must say. And, Melanie does a lot of live shows, so check her out if you want trustworthy information. Sure. Okay, so that was number 3. And I'm not getting paid for any of this stuff, by the way, and I'm not seeking extra viewers. These are my resource centers in the past that I've used, and very respectable. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you watch Melanie's channel, let us know in the comments there. Please stay safe, stay alert, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.